Invasions, the core of Souls PvP. Obscure magic that manipulates the boundaries of time and space to bring people together in bloodshed, acting as a universal force pushing and pulling on the tides of triumph and glory, facilitating an endless struggle of competing goals. And invaders, those who perpetuate the violence, the individuals who seek conflict and demand a response. While their motives vary, they are unified in a singular purpose: to hunt and kill their prey. Which of these two elements decides the villainous nature of player killing? Is it the ability to invade that creates monsters, or are invaders inherently menacing and the opportunity purely circumstantial? Obviously, invaders don't exist without invasions. And likewise, invasions don't exist without invaders. You can't have one without the other, and there's no sense in arguing over those particular logistics. What's interesting to me is where negative sentiments should be directed. At the invader or the invasion system, the player or the game. Whenever I see people rail against being invaded, I have found that the majority of the blame falls on the individual. The assertion is that it is the invader who chooses to attack, therefore they are at fault. It's a simple and reasonable assessment. Invaders willingly choose to enact an invasion, so the responsibility for that act falls on them. But what's baked into that idea is that invading is wrong, or at least can be wrong, and that's where the conversation gets derailed. After all, the game allows for and facilitates invasions. It even incentivizes them, however meagerly. Invaders are just playing the game, just like everyone else. It's not considered villainous to cooperate, nor is it bad to defeat a boss. Morality is only applied in the context of PvP, which is understandable. Players have feelings and the game does not. If one player makes another feel lesser by defeating them, that feels like an inherently villainous act. But it's difficult, and very possibly misguided, to apply external morality inside a game. The consequences are finite, so the actions are of lesser significance. Competition is not good or evil, it just is. As much as some hosts might think all invaders should be executed by Gank Squad, that urge isn't based in anything other than game mechanics. An opposing team stands to beat your own, so they're the bad guy. But it's the game demanding that friction, because the game includes invasions, because it has a competitive multiplayer mode, that system has to bear the weight of those interactions. And all of this is in the context of something that's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to have fun invading, and you're supposed to have fun being invaded. But if you aren't, as many are not, where can we lay that blame? I think that's something that greatly depends on the context of the situation. It's reasonable to say that an invader doing everything they can to grief you is causing you to not have fun. It's also reasonable to say invasions being balanced as they are pushes invaders to become more aggressive and less fun to fight. And I think we have a responsibility to each other to play in ways that best serve ourselves and others. We should play how we want to be played against, whatever form that might take. But our ability to do so is entirely system dependent. You do what it takes to win. You need to in order to play the game. If you're losing, you're doing something wrong, and it's on you to correct that. Sure, your opponent might be exploiting the system to their advantage, but the system being exploitable is an untenable problem. It's not practical to expect people to deny themselves advantages based on things that cannot tangibly benefit them. I might want to be an ideal person and do decent, honest work, but I also need money, and that means monetizing videos and letting my audience be berated by whatever YouTube is selling via ads. That doesn't excuse me in any way, but until that system stops punishing people for not taking every advantage possible, until it allows people to succeed through positive means, people will continue to negatively affect others because they need to win. And this is what I find is at the heart of the invader bad argument. Invaders cause a disruption because that's how the mechanic works, but the way the disruption is experienced is not easily interpreted, and it creates an unintended second layer of friction. The disorienting nature of invasions is an intentional part of their appeal. They're supposed to be sudden and jarring, catching you off guard. The mistake is assuming those invaders have done something wrong or unwarranted. To be clear, if you're being invaded, it's because you deserve to be. You have met the criteria and you have opted in. You may not understand why, you may not like it, but you have come here of your own volition, and so too has the invader. You are supposed to compete and be better for it. That's how the game works. You are not supposed to, however, get upset about it. You can, and you understandably will, especially when you feel denied fairness or reason, but that does not mean that is the intention. PvP is a tricky thing to implement in a game because making it fun to win is easy, but making it fun to lose is not. It's not impossible, but clearly FromSoft has fallen short in this regard. Elden Ring invasions are not fun to lose. If you lose as an invader, you lose hard. If you lose as a host, you might also lose hard. The achievable power disparity means you can stand no reasonable chance under a myriad of circumstances, none of which feel aimed at delivering an enjoyable experience to everyone. That's a cardinal sin of any PvP system, where having fun can be antithetical to doing well. You can't always play the way you want because it often means playing suboptimally. In a cutthroat competition, every little bit counts. Of course, invasions aren't supposed to be fair or one-to-one balanced. They're defined by how weird they let players get with their methods of interaction, but a major drawback is that it can become difficult to make them fun for everyone. If the priority of invasions was to make sure everyone involved can have a good time, I imagine most of the external hostility would cease. I'm not angry at my fellow Pokemon trainers when I can't beat them, nor am I hateful of the opposing Castle Wars team when they steal my flag. It's all just part of the game. Essentially, the same things that make invasions unique make them uniquely frustrating, and that falls to the invasion system to deal with. Being invaded should be a scary experience that injects tension into a session. The invader is an unknown danger, capable of anything at any time. The fun comes from you embracing that tension and fear as a player and ultimately overcoming them. If you lose, it just means you need to try again. But wanting to try again requires tenacity, something Elden Ring does not always engender. It's a game so frequently centered on avoiding or undermining obstacles that facing them head-on can seem foolish. Invading is an old mechanic in the world of Souls games, and Elden Ring's new approach does not always mesh. Accordingly, there are those who say invasions should be removed, and they come from across the whole of the invasion spectrum. Some longtime invaders want to see the system go because they feel it's a shell of its former self. Plenty of non-invaders don't see the appeal at all, and would be glad to see it left behind as a failed experiment getting in the way of their power fantasy. Obviously, the answer is to improve invasions, not remove them, but their concerns are not without merit. I'd invade more if invading was better, if it had more players or more variety. Like any good system, it can and should be improved. It's just an impossible conversation to have when people rush to blame their fellows rather than the systems that create them. I firmly believe people are not chafing against the idea that others want to compete against them, even if that's how they frame it. They're being rubbed the wrong way by imperfections in a system. It is not the invader who wrongs you, nor is it even necessarily the game. It is this space between that creates animosity, where the game fails to achieve its goals or consider the consequences. Because, as concepts and actualizations, invasions are beautiful, and so are invaders, however flawed each might be. We need a better system to support better invaders so both can thrive properly, and so those going up against them can thrive as well. And if you're someone who regularly gets mad at invaders, try invading for yourself. I know it's basic advice, but it really is that simple. Everyone I know who hates being invaded does not invade, and until they get on the other side of that conflict, it's impossible to fully understand. Once you have that perspective, you can commiserate with all the invaders who feel the system is degraded. You can see how the system could be better and collectively voice what you want to see as improvements. All game developers, including From Software, take player feedback. It might not be directly, but they do consider the opinions of their players. It's up to us to know what to ask for. If this is a debate you've ever found yourself in, or if you just want to weigh in on the discussion, let me know in the comments. I find myself wanting more and more to bridge the gap between invader and host because I want everyone to get on the same page. I'm worried Elden Ring 2 will exist as an exaggeration of every change I didn't like, and the best way I can think of to avoid that is to help people understand the beauty of the designs we might otherwise lose. Like the video if you think I'm incredibly convincing and can do no wrong, dislike it if you think I'm an invader apologist who lacks basic decency, and subscribe to tell YouTube I deserve more money. Until next time, thank you for watching.